Anyway, I'm very happy to be here on a wonderful Tuesday. Hope you are all safe and happy and well. And this is going to be an awesome conversation. And I will tell you, which I've never said before, if it happens that you are a mom and you can get your daughters to watch this, either live with you now or later in the discussion feed, I cannot recommend this enough. I have a son, but I can tell you this, especially if I had a daughter, I would really, really, really want her to see this. So thank you for your patience. And before we do anything else, I will introduce you to our fabulous guest, Jessie, who is the queen of all social media out there. She actually runs her own social media company. She's out of the Michigan area. And Jessie, before we jump into all the great things we're going to talk about, can you tell them a little bit about your company and what you do?
Of course, yes. And I'm just like so excited to talk about what we're talking about, but I will tell a little bit about myself first. How about that?
Please.
I've been doing social media marketing. I've actually just celebrated the 7th year of my business this month on the 10th. So it's been over 7 years because I've done freelancing before that. And really, I'm a little jack of all trades when it comes to social media. I help businesses create content, strategy, Facebook ads, find great ambassadors, influencers. You name it, I can do it. I've done it. I've got a small team. We work with a book of amazing clients and amazing business owners, and I absolutely love what I do. And to love what I do, I've gotten really ingrained in social media over the years. So there's a reason why I still love social media and I work in it every day. So I've got some really good tips and tricks to just really have a great experience on these platforms.
Awesome. And you have worked with everything, individuals, businesses, nonprofits, and didn't you make a dog famous?
Yes, I helped. The dog itself, I'm pretty sure, is probably the biggest component. It's a really cute dog. So it's probably why it went famous. Very cute dog.
Well, I'm really excited to have you here. And there's two things we're going to tackle and we're going to break down today. One is talking about social media and its impact on women and young girls. And the other is growing your social media and how to use it to your advantage. But since this is a predominantly female group, I'd really love to start with that. I mentioned earlier, if I had a daughter, I'd want her to watch this because I think social media and the impact it's having on all women, but especially young women, is really staggering. And I would love to hear your thoughts on all of that. Anything that you would like to share?
Yeah, definitely. And I've done a lot of research. I've actually been hired to talk to a family and children on their social media, which is, I normally am helping businesses, but I just know a lot about these platforms and the nature of these platforms. And the truth is, social media can get a bad rap, and it's not totally undeserving. I would say there's the dark side of social media, right? The trolls, the bullying, the emotions. And I would say probably this past year, a lot of us could see very clearly some of the dangers of social media or some of the pitfalls. But here's my perspective. A lot of great things can happen on social media as well. I mean, I've been a part of many great things happening, including like long lost relatives separated at birth, finding each other because of social media, and businesses growing and launching, and people sharing their stories and changing a life. So just, and I bring this information in the big context that, like, yes, I'm clearly aware of the downfall of social media, but I really like to try to stick to the positive side. But that being said, there's like 3 or 4 stats or research studies that I think is really important for us to be aware of.
Okay.
One is that when you compare men and women, women tend to think that social media is generally more negative than men do. That's just an interesting stat. Now, this study didn't really go into the definitive reasons as why maybe women see social media as more of a negative arena or an environment than men. I can basically assume, and my assumptions are that, we're really fine-tuned to people's emotions. We're fine-tuned to people's lifestyles. We're really connected. We really care about our relationships. I feel like I'm speaking very generally here. A man can maybe see something and he can brush it off and forget about it a minute later, where women are really paying attention to the detail. So it's just interesting that overall, women tend to find more fault with social media than men do, which is interesting. But when you actually get granular and you say, can social media impact your mental health negatively? And who does it impact the most? Believe it or not, if you look at all the demographics, the demographic group that is the most negatively impacted by social media is teenage girls.
That I can believe. Yeah.
Yeah. And and once again, this is super general, so I'm not trying to say that there isn't teenage boys that are having the same experience, but they tend to find that, really side by side comparison. Most of the time, teenage boys can kind of just jump out, jump forward, move on, while teenage girls are really can struggle from cyberbullying. They really can get a lot of self-negative talk when they start comparing themselves to maybe other girls or other influencers, etc. So I would say the group that we have to watch out the most for, as far as being in a community member, a parent, a family, a relative, a friend, is our teenage girls. And like, there's a reason why I think this is happening. I think a lot of it is cyberbullying, but I think the other thing, the other aspect of social media is the comparison, looking at other people and feeling badly about ourselves.
I mean, Jessie, one of the things that like drives me crazy, I feel so bad, is, you see these influencers that are real young and they look perfect all the time. And I think young girls who are watching them and following them think that they really look like that. But aren't they cheating? Don't they have filters and fancy stuff to make themselves look that good?
Yes, what you see on social media is, I like to call it the highlight reel, right? They're the most positive, happy moments. They're the best pictures out of 500.
Yeah.
We now have more access to apps that smooth our skin, make us skinnier. We've got Lightroom. I mean, you look at an average person's cell phone in this industry, in my industry, I've got every editing app you can name. So of course I can make someone look like a freaking movie star if I want to. So there is and it's really interesting that you bring up this concept, because if we want to take some research a step further, there's this duality between real and ideal on social media. So hear me out. When we see ideal images, that means like we're looking at these aesthetically Victoria's Secret perfect models who are editing their pictures, or who just like live this really aspirational lifestyle. It actually, we can see through research that we start looking at ourselves differently in a negative perspective. But when we come across real people, like real content that's not necessarily over edited, people are sharing, just their day-to-day lives, we can actually, so this research shows that it can actually foster satisfaction with ourselves. It can foster satisfaction with our lives. And the key difference is real versus ideal. And I put ideal kind of in this encapsulating thing over here, where it's probably not very real. So if I were to suggest one thing, when it comes down to, if you want to create a really positive environment for yourself, which I think is critically important, we have to seek and search and follow and find people who represent real to us. And we really have to be picky and choosy. Like, you have, if there's any person or any page or profile that makes you feel less than great, 100%, you should choose to kind of let it go and really cultivate and be intentional about the environment that you create. Because in that case, when we are surrounding ourselves with real people, real leaders, real business entrepreneurs, real people who are really going out there and trying to make the world a better place, and you can just tell that they're authentic, it will actually foster creativity. It will help become inspirational for you. So this is the power of social media. You can wield it for good. You just have to be intentional about it. And that goes same for your children.
I was just going to
who are they
say,
being exposed to?
Yeah, if you have a daughter, especially a teenager, I would think, most of them are following so much stuff on social media between TikTok and Instagram and all that. And they're looking at stuff that's not accurate in a lot of cases or realistic, but they love following those people. Would you give the parent or the daughter any advice on when you're looking at this, how to put it all in perspective?
I find that having conversations with our daughters or our sons,
Mhm.
asking the following questions. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think we really need to sit down and say, what do you like about social media? What do you think is awesome? What don't you like about social media? Is there something out there that has ever made you feel bad or uncomfortable?
Hmm.
I think that parents should get clued in to really how their child feels about themselves in relationship to social media. I think this is step number one. Step number two is actually um, setting up a plan for something if something bad happens. For example, like if someone says something mean, if someone reaches out to try to contact you, like the parent should have already had a discussion and what happens in this kind of scenario, what happens in this kind of scenario. And ultimately what I've said to parents is you are your child's publicist. All right.
I like that. Yeah.
You as a publicist, you need to know what they're doing, where they're going, what they're looking at. And even if they venture off the beaten path, you just have to have these conversations. I think the best step that we can take as, like I said, relatives, friends, parents, is having conversations and being clued into what is going on for your child in social media.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's funny when my son started, he wanted to first get on social media and I had the whole troll talk with him. I said, someone's going to come on, say something really mean, really nasty. But I think the young boys are at least not scrutinized as much for their looks, and that's crazy.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's a lot of pressure, especially for a teenage girl. There's enough peer pressure as a teenage girl without having that on top of it.
Absolutely. And you and I, Leanne, we have something in common. I know we've talked about this before. We've kind of got Teflon a little bit going on for
Yeah.
ourselves. Like, we can catch some hate and we're just like, I'm gonna be sleeping fine tonight. I'm gonna go back to eating my French fries on to the next moment. But the expectation of having younger women, teenage daughters having the same experience, I think they need a little bit more support from us, right? Like just know that even if they do come across a negative comment, be really tuned in and present to how that impacted them and be there to support. Because unfortunately, if you are in social media, you're going to hit some of the haterade that is happening.
And for some reason, people feel incredibly comfortable commenting on the physical appearance of women
So
way more than men. I mean, it's remarkable.
it
And
is. I've seen legitimate models being criticized for a top they wore, a look they have. And this is the when I say there's the dark side of social media, this is just part of the nature of it. I can't really explain, I can't give you the reasons why humanity is the way it is, but I can tell you that from a personal experience, you just have to keep going forward. And on this note, I think a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, a lot of women who have great services, a lot of women who have a lot of wisdom to teach others, they don't do it because they're afraid of that criticism.
yeah,
They don't share their message. They don't put themselves out there. They hold back. And you know what? The cost is someone's life changing. I think that if you have something really important to share, which is, I believe all of us do, and you're afraid, if you're going to let potential criticism hold you back from sharing, don't, right? This is a message that's more important than that. That's what I always like to teach the people that I work with, is that this is the nature of the environment. You're not going to change that, but what you have to share and what you have to offer people is more important.
I love that. That is so powerful. I love that you really took a minute and commented on that. And, I'll tell you a quick side story. Years ago, I do a lot of public speaking. Years ago, there was a posting of me on stage in an arena, and I was recovering from a really, really significant injury, and I had put on some weight. And there was this big post about the speech I gave and everything. And this whole dialogue started about whether I looked better or worse with more weight on. And I'm reading this like, if this were a guy, there's no way this conversation, and like everyone's voting on
Oh
That's
my
what made me
gosh.
think, can you imagine if I was like 16 or 20 or something, which I'm so not.
Yes,
I mean, that's crazy that women have to go through that.
absolutely. But here's what I challenge you, and obviously I know you do this, Leanne. I know you do, but for everybody watching too, you know how much it hurts to get a negative comment, but you know how much it feels good to see someone who acknowledges you, who shares their celebrations with you, who congratulates you, who says great work, or I love what you're doing. On the flip side, when we like there is nothing but good when we can go out and support each other
Mm,
and really lift each other up. Like be the positive comment, really like support and share and acknowledge people. And I think that's what we can do to kind of fight back,
I love that.
like
Yeah. Anything
positive
nice to
thinking.
say would be great. And
Yeah.
that kind of brings us into this because, you have great strategy in helping people build their social media. And a lot of it is interaction, et cetera. If you could take a minute, there's people on here who just want to grow their social media for fun. There are people who are trying to increase their reputation. There are people who are watching this that own a company. But if you wanted to, give a couple tips on how to increase your following, what would you recommend people do?
Yep. First, I would say know what kind of environment we're in today. With the pandemic, usage increased,
Mm,
and some up to 30 to sometimes on platforms 50%, right? That means people went to social media during this past year, and we're still heavily into social media. So what does that mean? That means that there's a lot of noise out there. And so one tip I love to give is that you have to be consistent, right? Sometimes I think people we put one post out there, we do a few weeks of posting, and then we give up. Like, oh, that didn't result in what we wanted. It must not be working. No, 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 no. The consistency is the biggest and the most rewarded thing by these platforms like Facebook, Instagram, they're even LinkedIn. They're all looking for consistent players.
mm.
So just know that when you step into this field and you're going to be promoting yourself, promoting your service, promoting your philosophies, know that consistency is rewarded. Don't give up in the short term. This is you're working against people who've been doing this for years, but that doesn't mean you won't have a place and you won't get a place. It just means that you got to actually put some longevity into what you're doing. The second thing I tend to find that for those who are running their own social media is they want to become a master of all the platforms that they possibly can.
Mhm.
So they're like, I'm going to go do LinkedIn and Instagram and Pinterest and Facebook and YouTube and TikTok and Clubhouse. And guess what happens? They lose steam so quickly because it's a lot of work. So go first start at the platform, I would say, that you feel really good about being on. Like it's easy for you. I once had a bookkeeper who said, Jessie, I know my ideal target market's on Facebook. Everybody's on Facebook, but she's like, I just love Instagram though. I'm like, go do Instagram. Put your
Mhm.
energy into the platform that you enjoy most of, because when you enjoy it, you're going to just naturally spend more time doing it. You're going to be better at it. You're going to be more creative. So one of the things is, of course, over time, you can master all of them, but really get down to the platform that you feel great putting yourself out there on.
I'm
And
so
don't
glad
let
you
like,
said that. Yeah. Because it's almost pressure. I'm like, I don't like Twitter. I never do anything on Twitter. And I always feel guilty, like I should be doing something on there, and I don't. So
well,
when people are posting, you say consistency is a big thing. What about interacting, commenting? Do you think that makes a difference too?
oh my gosh, yes. And so one of my favorite sayings is minimal effort gets zero results, meaning that unfortunately today, with usage so high, just posting is not good enough. You have to go out there and start interacting. Social media largely back in the day, I'm sure you remember this. Were you ever the one that like would go on Facebook and you're like, I'm going to add 10 more friends today. I'm
Yeah.
going to follow 10 business pages today. And now what do? We're actually clearing our friend list. We're
Yeah.
unfollowing pages. Social media went from a really proactive, from a user standpoint, they're proactively searching. Now they're reactively searching. We are waiting for people to find us. We're not trying to find them. in most circumstances. So what does that mean for an entrepreneur, a professional, a business owner? Is that you have to talk to people, yes, that you don't know on social media. So what that might look like is posting in Facebook groups, interacting with people in Facebook groups. That could mean going into your Instagram profile, actually searching for profiles, talking through comments, sliding through someone's DMs, just being like, hey, what's up? How's it going? For business. And LinkedIn, it could be connecting to people that you don't know, supporting people's content. That's where I feel like the magic happens. Now, if you were just to do outreach, I call it outreach.
Okay.
And not the content part, there are two pieces to the puzzle. You need to have great content on your page where people can know more about you, know more about your business. But then you have to actually put legs on it and start interacting with people on these platforms that you're in.
And then I want to ask you something else, because I was actually just talking with a friend of mine who owns a business, and he's in he owns two businesses. And I said to him, I think that sometimes you want to know your audience. Do you think that there are things that maybe you should post somewhere here on Instagram if you're trying to socialize, but maybe not post on LinkedIn if you're trying to attract business, or vice versa? What are your thoughts on that part?
Yeah, every platform in general has a unique strategy or approach as far as content. So for example, LinkedIn, people care a little bit less about your lunch pictures and if you're chilling by the pool. And Instagram, we care a little bit more about those things. Facebook, we can put some more linkable content. So to your point, I think if we look at the platforms that you choose to go into and that you like, the first thing I always do working with any client, doesn't matter how long I've been doing this, is I start looking at the top performers in their industry on that platform.
Oh,
I go to the best of the best. I find the people that are spending like 30,000 a month on marketing, right? Not including ad spend. Like, I want to see what these people that are investing a huge amount of money into this platform, what are they doing? Study them, learn from them. So to your point, that could mean that Instagram can be more obviously aesthetic. It can be more inspirational, aspirational, while Facebook you can get a little bit more down to business. You can take people places. LinkedIn, you can really be direct with what you bring to the table, so to speak, in your business. So every platform kind of has a different personality to it. But then on top of it, your audience on those platforms matter too. A lot of businesses are multifaceted. We might have certain audiences that are certain services that are used on one platform more than the other. And that's when we can start tailoring our content to those audiences as well.
Oh, okay. Now, I also want to, I've got you here, ask you, because we have quite a few people that run nonprofits that are in this group too. And, what's the value or strategy, or how does social media serve somebody who either has a nonprofit or is trying to get a reputation for their nonprofit, or trying to get donations for their nonprofit, anything? How does that work out? Because you handle some nonprofits too, correct?
I do, and I've consulted with them. I manage one that's been wildly successful this past year. And this is what I've learned, is that everybody loves a good cause. Everybody likes to chip in, donate when we can. But there's, I would say, thousands, if not 10,000s of charities in our area that need our help. So what makes you, Leanne, anybody, go to a specific charity and donate? It's because we somehow had some sort of connection to it first,
Yeah.
right?
They got us in the heart.
Yeah. Like someone's introduced it to us, or like someone shared about it, or maybe they've reached out. So what I tend to find that the best strategy for a nonprofit to build their audience on social media is what I classify as direct message campaigns, where you are going out and, similar to the outreach that I spoke of before, you're going to people's accounts and you're directly communicating with them about your needs as a nonprofit. Hey, right now we're trying to raise money and raise awareness for this cause. We would love for you, Leanne, to be a part of it. It is way different when we get a direct call to action to us to take action. We're more likely to take that action than if we were to see a post just out there on social media asking the same thing.
Yeah, that's so true, because if somebody does come to you and you think it's a good charity, you do something for them. We try to do an every month in here, a nonprofit. I make sure we do some kind of charity or nonprofit each month. And I do know that there are people in the group who get excited and do stuff. I've donated things, but I'm not the only one in the group that does it. So they can do that without even being in a group though.
Yep. Yep. And here's I would say the progression of donors on social media. Usually they come in at small donation amounts right off the bat with social media, but you're really growing those donors outside of social media. The email marketing, I would say specifically for nonprofits, they really have to have a strong email marketing approach, because it's fine if we want to spend $5 on a donation, $10. I mean, I've donated $10 like 50 times, but what takes me from donating 10 to 500?
Yeah.
Right. It's the forming that really strong bond with the relationships with a nonprofit. So always just remember that social media, specifically for nonprofits, it's about creating that relationship, getting them into your system, and then growing that relationship outside of social media. But the best way to get another way to get great exposure for your nonprofit is actually finding ambassadors, people that can help you share your message, whether it's an influencer or a micro influencer or a local credible expert in the field that maybe you help, whether it's a dog training, if you're a charity for dogs, find a local dog trainer that can become an ambassador, an advocate. And when you have that consensus on social media about your cause, it just makes those direct messages go so much easier. It gives you a wider audience, and it really helps get the word out about your nonprofit.
That's a really fantastic idea, because if other people are sharing it, that opens up doors you wouldn't have reached otherwise.
Yeah,
I love that.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I know I hate how fast Tuesdays go by.
It goes too fast.
I know, but I do want to ask you one more thing. So you're really successful at what you do. What is your favorite part? Like, you've been doing this for 7 years. The game constantly changes. What do you love the most, or what do you find the most rewarding about what you do?
Okay, I love this question because it can change so frequently. I would have to say there's two things. I love creating, like, the people that I meet for my business, like, they're amazing people from all over the world, literally all over the world, that I think to myself, like, this business has brought me face to face with people who I just truly admire and respect. That's one of the things that, like, I love working with people. Number two, though, I know this sounds super cheesy, but like, one time a direct message I sent sold someone a mattress. Okay. They got a mattress. Then they wrote in saying that they had the best night's sleep of their life.
Oh,
And that it changed their life. They have less back pain, and they just went on and on how this was like the best decision they've ever made. And I don't know, I just love doing that. I love, like, helping people get connected to the right product, the right service. And it was because of something I did. I would say that's also a favorite part of what I do.
that's fabulous. And speaking of connecting people, you are in the group. So if anybody wants to message you or talk to you, are you okay if they reach out to you here? Fantastic.
Slide into my DMs.
Okay, great. And you want to share your website? I can share your website too on here as well.
Yes, allsocialjessie.com. I'll also go in and comment under the live, so anybody can come and visit me.
You're the best. Thank you so much for being here and for your words of wisdom. And you made me feel that now it's okay that I'm pale as a ghost and have wrinkles, because it makes me real, not ideal, right? Isn't something like that?
That's it. You are 100% real, baby. 100%.
Yeah, there's no magic going on over here, Well,
I've seen you do some aerial work and some lift up, some pull-ups. Like, I don't know, you could be magic, just saying.
Oh, God bless you. Well, thank you for being here, for your expertise and what you've shared, not only professionally for everybody, but I think also, to get women to take social media and make it fun and not take it on so personally. It's really kind of tough to do. So I appreciate that very much. This is Jessie. I will post her website again, just in case you guys missed it. She's in the group. And thank you again.